Hello and welcome back to a new video on my channel. Tonight there will be no clouds, so we'll be doing some deep sky astrophotography. Tonight there will be a few challenges we have to deal with. So on the one hand it will be quite windy, and on the other hand there will be a full moon tonight, which is definitely not that good. Over the past few years, a lot of people ask me whether astrophotography is possible under these conditions, and in this video I would like to answer this question. So join me for a new night of astrophotography as we try to capture deep sky objects under these conditions. This video is not sponsored and not being paid for it. All products shown in this video were purchased by myself, but now let's get started. As I already mentioned, there will be a full moon tonight, so it's very challenging to do astrophotography under these conditions because it's very bright and it's very hard to reveal those details in galaxies or nebulae. So therefore, the easiest objects to photograph under these conditions are star clusters and open star clusters. For sure you can photograph the moon and planets, but when photographing deep sky objects, star clusters and open star clusters are rather easier to photograph than galaxies or nebulae. Definitely it's possible to photograph galaxies and nebulae, but star clusters are rather easier than these other objects. So before we start, I would like to introduce a telescope we'll be using for tonight, because this might be interesting when photographing those objects. Now I would like to introduce the telescope we'll be using for tonight's astrophotography session. So the basis of this entire system will be the HEQ 5 Pro go-to mount. So this is a go-to mount, which means that I have to select the object, and then this mount will directly move the telescope towards this object, which is very helpful for deep sky astrophotography, especially when those objects are very dark. Furthermore, this telescope has a tracking function. So as you probably know, Earth is rotating, and therefore we need a mount that is tracking the night sky in order to not have star trails in our final image. So on the top of the telescope, I have attached a telescope. So there are some kind of two different types of telescopes. There are those reflector telescopes and refractor telescopes. This telescope I'm using is a reflector telescope. To be more precise, it's a Newtonian telescope. So there's a mirror placed inside. The Newtonian telescope I'll be using for tonight's astrophotography session will be the Skywatcher 150-750 PDS Newtonian telescope. So since this is a Newtonian telescope, there will be a lot of coma in our final image. So therefore, I've decided to attach a coma corrector to this entire system. So later I will as well attach my camera. So I'm using the Canon EOS 2000D. It's a DSLR camera with an APS-C sensor. So later I will attach this camera to this telescope. On the top I have attached a guide scope. So I will use an auto guiding system as well. And this guide scope, so the guide scope I'm using is a guide scope with focal length of 240 millimeters and an aperture of 60 millimeters. At the back of the telescope I have attached a guiding camera. So I'll be using the CWO ASI 120mm mini mono guiding cam. So this is the auto guiding system I'll be using for tonight's astrophotography session. As I already mentioned, I'm using the CWO ASI Air Pro. So this is an Astro computer. So this is some kind of this red computer you can see right here. So this allows me to control this entire setup. So I can control the mount, the guiding system, and the camera. So everything is controlled by this computer. This is actually everything we'll be using for tonight's astrophotography session. So I have to set up the telescope later. So this will be the exact same setup we'll be using for tonight. We have to wait until it gets dark and we can start the polar alignment process and then get started with the astro session. Last night everything went quite according to plan. I had a few problems. So as I already mentioned, the weather forecast said that there will be no clouds, but unfortunately there were a few clouds. So that was not that good. And furthermore, I had a few problems with the system, with the setup itself. So the mount was, when selecting the object I wanted to photograph, the mount was always moving towards the ground. But I have found the problem. So the Newtonian telescope was not in focus, and therefore the ASI Air Pro was not able to align the framing I wanted to achieve, because there were no stars in the field of view. So after focusing the telescope, everything went quite according to plan. But as I already mentioned, there were a few clouds, so in total I was only able to achieve an exposure time of 37 minutes. Later I had to delete a few of them. In total I have 30 light frames. Each of these light frames has a single exposure time of 1 minute, which results in a total exposure time of 30 minutes. I as well had a few problems with the auto guiding system, but I think it was due to the position of the object. So yesterday the object was quite close to the horizon, so I think that was the problem, but everything went quite according to plan, and I was able to collect light frames, as you can already see in the background. So this image you can see right here is my finished final processed image of the object I was able to photograph. So as I already mentioned, I plan to photograph a star cluster. In this case, I captured 2 star clusters in one framing. So the one star cluster you can see in the framing here is NGC 869, and quite close to this star cluster, there's another star cluster that is as well known as NGC 884. So I think it's great framing to precisely include all of those 2 star clusters into my final image. So I really like the framing of this image. So it looks actually quite nice. So if you look at this image as a total, it looks great. But if you zoom in a bit, you can see that there are a few structures that should not be there. So for example, if you look down below here, so right here, so you can see these circles here, for example. So these can be there, for example, due to dust being on your sensor of your camera. So that's why we astrophotographers use calibration frames. So we use dark frames, flat frames, bias frames. So I'm always using these frames, these calibration frames, to not have these structures in my final image, but unfortunately it didn't work. So these circles, so these structures itself are not only here, but also something like here. So it's not looking that good, and that's why I'm always using those calibration frames to not have these structures, but it didn't work, as I already mentioned. So I've decided to combine the light frames captured yesterday with calibration frames captured approximately a year ago. So approximately a year ago, I captured M27 and planetary nebulae, and the temperature was actually quite the same. So I've decided to combine the calibration frames captured a year ago with the light frames captured yesterday. So here we go. So I've combined the light frames captured yesterday with the calibration frames captured approximately a year ago, and actually it looks quite good. So you can see that these structures they nearly disappeared completely. So it looks quite good right now. So I'm actually quite happy with the framing itself. So everything looks quite good. So for those of you who are planning to do astrophotography under these conditions, I definitely recommend capturing images of star clusters and open star clusters, because these objects mostly contain stars, and stars are much brighter than those nebulae and galaxies, and therefore it's easier to capture those star clusters. So those star clusters are definitely great objects for a new moon as well, but you can do astrophotography when capturing star clusters when there's a full moon too. So when there's a full moon, I would definitely recommend shooting these star clusters. There are a lot of star clusters out there in the night sky to photograph, so these are great objects to photograph. I definitely recommend it, and you will achieve great results with these. So you can see the stars look quite good actually. So these spikes are very symmetric, and the stars as well look very good. And if you zoom in a bit here in the corners, you can as well see that there's no coma in it. The stars are very round. If you zoom in the corners, in the outer regions here, you can see that the stars are still very, very nice. And so if you look at the corner down below here, the stars are great. So the coma corrector did a great job. I'm very happy with the final image. I really like the composition of this image. The framing is great. It's a great image. So that's actually the image I was able to achieve. So in my opinion, astrophotography is definitely possible under these conditions, and you can achieve great results when photographing these star clusters. In the future, I'm planning to photograph the exact same framing once again, and I would like to show you the differences between a full moon and a new moon. So I'm very excited for the differences. So consider subscribing to my YouTube channel so you don't miss this video. So I'm very excited for these differences, and for those of you, so if you have any questions on my equipment, on my processing, if you have any questions in general about astrophotography, please feel free to write them down below in the comments, and I'm very happy to help you. Yeah, if you found that video helpful, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. write and comment down below if you have ever tried astrophotography under these conditions, and thank you for watching, and until next time, clear skies, Felix.